The knocking pattern. The knocking started at 2:47 in the morning, and it followed the exact rhythm of my heartbeat. I'd been lying awake in my studio apartment in downtown Portland, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a screaming face, when the first knock came through the shared wall. Tap, 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 tap. The same irregular pattern as the pulse throbbing in my ears. I held my breath, and the knocking stopped. When my heart resumed, so did the sound. My neighbor in apartment 4B had moved in 3 weeks earlier. I'd never seen them, not once. The landlord, Marcus, said a woman named Catherine Voss had signed the lease, paid 6 months up front in cash, and requested that maintenance never enter without 48 hours' notice. I'd heard movement through the walls, furniture dragging, footsteps at odd hours, but never voices, never television, never music. I sat up in bed, and the knocking adjusted. Now it was faster, matching my elevated heart rate. Tap, 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 tap. My chest felt tight. This wasn't possible. I pressed my palm against the wall, feeling the vibrations with each knock. The wall was cold, far colder than it should have been in September. "Hello?" I called out. The knocking stopped instantly. I waited in the darkness, my breath fogging slightly in the sudden chill. 30 seconds passed. A minute? Then I heard something else, a long, slow scraping sound, like fingernails dragging down the opposite side of the wall. It started at the ceiling and descended in a perfectly straight line, ending at baseboard level. The sound made my teeth ache. I grabbed my phone and opened the building's tenant message board. Scrolling through, I found several posts about 4B from previous residents, all deleted within hours of posting. I'd screenshotted one 2 weeks ago, posted by someone named Derek Emmons. "Has anyone else heard the knocking? It knows things it shouldn't know. I'm breaking my lease." That post had appeared on September 3rd. Derek had moved out on September 5th. The landlord told me he'd left in the middle of the night, abandoning most of his belongings. The knocking resumed, but different now. It was tapping out a pattern. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, SOS, over and over, SOS, SOS, SOS. I pressed my ear against the wall. Behind the knocking, I could hear breathing. Deep, wet breathing that didn't sound like it came from a single source. It sounded like multiple people breathing in perfect synchronization. "Catherine," I said, "are you okay?" The breathing stopped. The knocking stopped. Then a voice came through the wall, thin and distant. "There is no Catherine." My blood went cold. It was my voice, my exact voice, speaking my words back to me with perfect inflection. I stumbled backward, knocking over my lamp. In the sudden darkness, I heard my apartment door handle rattle. I hadn't heard footsteps in the hallway. The handle turned slowly, testing the lock. I definitely unlocked it. I always locked it. "There is no Catherine." My voice repeated from the hallway, slightly louder now. I grabbed a kitchen knife and approached the door, looking through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but the motion sensor light was on, meaning someone had been there within the last 30 seconds. On the floor in front of my door sat a photograph. I waited 5 full minutes before cracking the door open and snatching the photo. It was old, printed on the thick paper they used in the 90s. It showed my apartment building, but wrong somehow. The architecture was the same, but the color was different. Dark red brick instead of gray concrete. In one of the 4th-floor windows, a woman's face was pressed against the glass. The image was blurry, but I could see her mouth was open too wide, impossibly wide, and there were too many teeth. I slammed the door, what unlocked both locks and the chain. The knocking started again, but now it was coming from inside my apartment, from inside my closet. I approached slowly, knife raised. The closet door was closed. I never closed it. The apartment was too small to waste any visual space. Through the door, I heard that synchronized breathing again, and underneath it, a wet sliding sound. "What do you want?" I whispered. The knocking changed pattern. It was spelling something in Morse code. I'd learned it in Boy Scouts, LETUSOUT. "Let who out?" THEONESWHOLIVEDHEREBEFORE. I opened my laptop and searched for the building's history. The apartment complex had been built in 2011 on the site of a demolished residential hotel. That hotel, the Riverside Arms, had a different history. In 1993, a fire had killed 11 residents on the 4th floor. The fire had started in room 407, the room that would later become apartments 4A and 4B after the rebuild. The article included names. Catherine Voss was listed among the dead. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I searched for Derek Emmons, the previous tenant who'd fled. I found his Facebook profile. His last post was from September 4th, the day before he moved out. "The walls are thinner than we think. Something is bleeding through. If you live at 1247 Riverside, get out." The comments were disabled, but the post had 63 shares. I clicked on the shares and found a pattern. 12 different people had shared it, all listing their location as Portland. I messaged all of them. 3 responded within minutes. "Did you live at 1247 Riverside?" I asked. All 3 said yes. All 3 said they'd heard the knocking. All 3 had lived in either 4A or 4B at different times over the past decade. "Did you find out what it wanted?" I typed. One of them, a woman named Sarah Chen, responded, "It doesn't want anything. It's trying to warn you. Don't let anyone into your apartment, no matter what they say, no matter what they sound like. The fire never stopped burning on the other side." "The other side of what?" I asked. She was typing, then stopped, then started again. "The wall. The fire is still burning in the space between apartments 4A and 4B. It's burning in a place where time got stuck. The people who died there are still dying, over and over. And something else is there with them, something that fed on the smoke and fear. It's been waiting to cross over. It needs permission. It needs to be invited." The knocking intensified, now coming from multiple points: the shared wall, the closet, the floor, the ceiling. The rhythm was chaotic, desperate. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "Let us out, let us out, let us out, let us out." Then another: "The fire hurts." Another: "We've been burning for 32 years. Another: "Please." The texts were coming every second now, hundreds of them, all from different numbers. My phone screen was a blur of notifications. Then my door handle rattled again. This time, I heard Marcus's voice from the hallway. "Hey, sorry to bother you so late. We've got a water leak in 4B. I need to shut off your water main. Can you let me in real quick?" I looked through the peephole. Marcus was standing there in his maintenance uniform, holding a wrench. He looked normal. Completely normal. "Marcus?" I called through the door. "Yeah, man. Sorry, I know it's late. This'll just take a second." Something was wrong. Marcus's mouth moved slightly out of sync with his words, like a dubbed foreign film. "Can you tell me the code for the storage unit?" I asked. Marcus and I had moved my furniture into storage last month. Only he and I knew the code. 4732? He said. "Wrong. It was 4723. Marcus smiled, but his teeth were wrong. too many of them, packed into his gums in irregular rows. "Come on, man, let me in. We're all waiting." Behind him, the hallway had changed. Instead of the normal beige walls and fluorescent lighting, everything was dark red, and the walls appeared to be moving, breathing. Smoke drifted across the floor. I backed away from the door. "Let me in," the thing wearing Marcus's face said, its voice now layered with 11 other voices, all speaking in unison. "Let us in. Let us out. Let us through." The knocking was everywhere now, a deafening percussion that made my skull vibrate. Every surface in my apartment was shaking. Picture frames fell from walls. Dishes rattled in cabinets. Then I remembered what Sarah had said. It needs permission. I hadn't invited anything in. I hadn't opened the door. But Derek had. According to the building logs I'd seen when I signed my lease, Derek had filed multiple maintenance requests for 4B, claiming to hear someone in distress. Had he let something in, thinking he was helping? The door handle stopped rattling. The knocking ceased instantly, leaving a ringing silence. I looked through the peephole again. The hallway was normal, empty. The motion sensor light clicked off. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I went to Marcus's office. The real Marcus. He was drinking coffee and filling out paperwork. "Did you come to my apartment last night?" I asked. He looked confused. "What? No, I was home by 9. Why?" I told him everything. He listened, his expression shifting from skepticism to concern. "I need to show you something," he finally said. He led me to the basement storage area and pulled out a box labeled 4B, previous tenant items. Inside were dozens of journals, all belonging to different people spanning back to 2012. Every journal described the same thing: the knocking, the voices, the requests to be let in. The most recent journal belonged to Derek Emmons. The last entry was dated September 4th, 2023. I opened the door. I thought it was Catherine. She looked hurt, said there was a fire. I let her in. She walked straight to the shared wall and pressed her hand against it. The wall opened like a mouth. She went through. Then 11 others came out. They walked through my apartment and disappeared into the walls, the floor, the ceiling. The last one stopped and looked at me. It said, "We're spreading. Every apartment, every floor, one by one." "I'm leaving. Don't let them fool you. Whatever you do, don't let them in." Marcus's face was pale. "We need to evacuate the building." But when we went upstairs, we found the residents of apartments 3B, 5B, 2B, and 6B standing in the hallway, all facing their doors. They stood perfectly still, not responding to our calls. Then, in perfect synchronization, they all began knocking on their own doors, following the rhythm of my heartbeat. I moved out that day, broke my lease, lost my deposit. I don't care. But sometimes, in my new apartment across town, I hear knocking. It's faint, distant, coming from inside the walls, and each time it's a little closer, a little louder. Last night, I found a photograph slipped under my door. It shows this building, my new building, but the brick is dark red instead of tan. In one of the third-floor windows, I can see myself standing there, my mouth open too wide. The knocking just started again. I'm not going to answer it. The humming man. The man in apartment 12C hummed the same melody for 18 days straight. And on the 19th day, I realized it was my grandmother's lullaby. The one she'd sung only to me, in a language she'd never taught anyone else. His humming had started on October 1st, low and constant, bleeding through the ceiling of my 11th floor apartment at all hours. I'd banged on his door 3 times. No answer. I'd called the landlord twice. They said apartment 12C was vacant, undergoing renovation after the previous tenant had abandoned it without notice. But someone was up there. I heard footsteps. I heard furniture moving. And I heard that humming, always the same tune, never stopping even for breath. On October 7th, I recorded the humming on my phone and played it for my mother during our weekly call. Her face went white. "Where did you hear that?" she demanded. "My upstairs neighbor. Why?" That's your grandmother's song, the one from her village in Romania. She made it up when you were born. No one else knew it. My grandmother had died 6 years ago. She'd sung that song to me every night when I was young, whispering the words in her native dialect. Dormi, copilul meu, căci umbra te veghează. Sleep, my child, for the shadow watches over you. I'd always thought shadow was just a poetic term for guardian angel or something. Now, hearing it drift through my ceiling at 3 in the morning, the word took on a different weight. On October 9th, I recruited my neighbor from 11B, a large man named Travis who worked construction, to help me knock louder. We pounded on 12C's door for 5 solid minutes. The humming never stopped, never even wavered. "Fuck this," Travis said, and kicked the door. The frame splintered. The door swung open. The apartment was empty, completely bare. No furniture, no renovation materials, nothing. Just empty rooms with stained carpet and water-damaged walls. But the humming continued, clear and close, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Travis backed out immediately. "I'm not dealing with this shit," he said, and retreated to his apartment. I heard his deadbolt slam. I stepped inside 12C. The air was thick, almost gel-like, and smelled of old earth and something sweeter, like flowers left too long in a vase. The humming surrounded me, vibrating in my chest cavity. I walked through the apartment. The layout was identical to mine, just 1 floor up. Same narrow kitchen, same awkward bathroom placement, same closet door that didn't quite close right. But everything felt wrong, proportions slightly off in ways I couldn't articulate. In the bedroom, I found a mark on the floor, a circular stain where something had sat for a long time. The stain was dark, organic looking, and in its center was a symbol I recognized. My grandmother had drawn it on the inside of my closet door when I was 7, telling me it would keep the shadow inside, where it belongs. I'd painted over it when I moved into this building 2 years ago. The humming grew louder. I turned and saw moisture condensing on the walls, running down in rivulets. No, not moisture. The walls were sweating. Actual perspiration, with the salt-sweet smell of human skin. I ran. Back in my apartment, I tore open my closet and examined the door. I'd painted it forest green, 2 thick coats, but the paint was blistering, bubbling up in a circular pattern. Underneath, I could see my grandmother's symbol bleeding through, a circle bisected by 7 lines, each line ending in a small spiral. My phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered. Heavy breathing then. "Dormi, copilul meu." My grandmother's voice, exact, perfect. I could even hear the slight whistle in her dentures she'd always had. "Bunica?" I whispered. "Grandma?" "Căci umbra te veghează," the voice continued. "The shadow watches over you, always watching. I kept it close, copilul. I kept it in the singing. But you painted over the door." The line went dead. I stood there, phone shaking in my hand, and heard it. Footsteps directly above me. Slow, deliberate. They walked from the bedroom to the living room. My ceiling creaked with each step. Then the footsteps stopped. and something pressed against the floor above, creating a bulge in my ceiling. The drywall stretched down like a pregnant belly, plaster cracking in thin spiderweb lines. Something was pushing through. The humming intensified, now definitely coming from inside my apartment. From the closet. I approached slowly and opened the door. My clothes were pushed aside. In the back wall, the painted symbol had completely peeled away, revealing not the wall underneath, but darkness. A deep, moving darkness that breathed. And in that darkness, I saw a face. My grandmother's face, but wrong. Too long, eyes too large and completely black. Her mouth was open, humming, and I could see there was nothing behind her teeth but more darkness. I kept it contained, she whispered from the dark. 40 years, I kept it in the song. The shadow from the old country. It attached to our bloodline when your great-great-grandmother opened the wrong door in the wrong house. It watches, Kopilul. It watches, and it waits, and it hungers. I sang to keep it satisfied, to keep it docile. But I'm dead now. The singing must continue. You must continue. What happens if I don't? My voice came out small, childlike. It will watch until it's seen everything. Then it will consume what it has watched. It starts with you, then spreads. Building by building, city by city. Watching, always watching, until there's nothing left unseen. The darkness began to pour from the closet like liquid, spreading across my floor. Where it touched, the floorboards turned black and soft, like rotting fruit. I did the only thing I could think of. I started humming. The darkness stopped spreading. Dormi, Kopilul meu. I hummed, the melody I'd heard every night as a child. The darkness receded slightly, pulling back toward the closet. I hummed louder, stronger. The darkness withdrew further. My grandmother's face in the void smiled, showing too many teeth. Good, she whispered. Now you understand. Never stop singing, Kopilul. Never stop. The moment the song ends, it will be free. She faded into the black. The closet door slammed shut. I've been humming for 3 weeks now. I hum during work meetings. I hum while eating. I hum in my sleep. I've recorded myself to verify. The moment I stop, even for a breath, I hear footsteps above me. I hear the walls begin to sweat. I see shadows in my peripheral vision that are too thick, too present. My voice is giving out. My throat is raw, bleeding. I've lost 14 pounds because I can barely eat while humming. Yesterday, I heard humming from 11B, Travis's apartment, then from 11D, then from 9C. It's spreading anyway. The shadow is learning. It's using me as a blueprint, creating copies, infecting other apartments with fragments of itself. This morning, I found a note slipped under my door, written in Romanian in my grandmother's handwriting. I'm sorry. I thought I could contain it. I was wrong. It's too patient, too old. It's been watching since before words had names. Run, Kopilul. Run and never stop running. Maybe distance will. The note ended mid-sentence, the ink trailing off into nothing. I can't run. If I leave, if I stop humming, it will be free, all of it. Every fragment I've accidentally helped create. So I hum. I hum and I hum and I hum. But my voice is failing, and I can hear it behind me now, even while I sing, breathing, watching, waiting for silence. The arrangement. The couple in 7F rearranged their furniture every night at exactly 3:15 in the morning, and after 2 months, I realized they were building something. I'd moved into apartment 70 of the Ashmore complex in late July. Young couple, mid-20s like me, seemed normal enough. I'd met them once in the hallway, Michael and Emma Grant. He worked in finance, she was a graphic designer. They'd smiled, waved, made small talk about the building's terrible water pressure. The furniture moving started on August 3rd. Dragging sounds, heavy thuds, the screech of wood on hardwood floors. It lasted exactly 47 minutes, from 3:15 to 4:02 in the morning, every single night. I knocked on their door after the first week. Emma answered, looking exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. "Hey, sorry, but the noise at night?" "I know," she interrupted. "I'm so sorry. Michael has this thing, OCD or something. He needs to rearrange the furniture in specific patterns or he can't sleep. I've tried to stop him, but he gets really upset." She looked like she was about to cry, so I backed off. "Okay, maybe he could do it earlier, before midnight." "It has to be at 3:15, she said quietly. "It has to be exact. I'm sorry. We're working on it." She closed the door. The moving continued. I started documenting it, recording the sounds, timing them. Always 3:15, always 47 minutes. And the pattern of sounds was consistent. Drag, drag, thud. Pause, drag, drag, thud. Like they were following instructions. On September 1st, I ran into Michael in the parking garage. He looked worse than Emma, gaunt, shaking slightly, his eyes bloodshot. "Hey man, about the noise." "I know," he said. "I know, I can't stop. If I stop, it'll be incomplete." "What'll be incomplete?" He stared at me for a long moment. "The arrangement. We have to complete the arrangement." "What arrangement?" He got into his car and drove away without answering. That night, I pressed my ear against the shared wall and really listened. Beneath the dragging and thudding, I heard Emma crying. And I heard Michael talking, his voice rhythmic, like he was counting or reciting something. 17 steps north, rotate 45 degrees, chair to the wall, 3.2 feet from corner, table perpendicular, lamp on the third tile. Yes, yes. Good. I looked up apartment 7F's previous tenant. A man named David Reese had lived there for 4 years before moving out abruptly in July. I found his Facebook and messaged him. "Did you move furniture at night?" I asked, feeling stupid. He responded within minutes. "Who told you? Did they find another one?" "Another what?" "Another pair. It needs 2 people. It doesn't work with 1. I tried alone for 3 years after Sarah left. Couldn't complete it. Are they getting close?" "Close to what?" He sent me a photo. It showed a detailed architectural diagram, like blueprints, but wrong. The measurements made no sense. Angles that couldn't exist in 3-dimensional space, rooms that overlapped impossibly. "This is what they're building," David wrote. "The arrangement. It's a gateway. Something left instructions in the walls. I found them when I pulled up the baseboard to install Ethernet cable. They were carved into the concrete foundation. Architectural plans for a structure that can't physically exist. But if you arrange furniture in specific patterns, in specific sequences over months, you can approximate it. You can create a temporary version." A gateway to where? I don't know. Sarah and I got to day 73 before she couldn't take it anymore. She left me. I kept trying alone, but it requires 2 people moving in synchronization. The grants are on day, 60? I checked my documentation. 62 nights. They're close then. It needs 93 days. 93 specific arrangements, each building on the last. Did they seem okay? I thought about Emma's tears, Michael's shaking hands. No. They won't be able to stop. Once you start, once you find the instructions, they get inside your head. You see the patterns everywhere. You can't think about anything else. Sarah started seeing the diagrams in her dreams. She said the walls were teaching her the next steps. I looked at the wall I shared with 7F. In the dim light, I could almost see lines in the texture, patterns in the paint. "What happens on day 93? I asked. David didn't respond for several minutes. Then, the gateway opens. Whatever's been waiting on the other side comes through. Or we go through to it. The instructions aren't clear on that part. That night, I didn't just listen. I watched through my peephole when I heard their door open at 3:14. Michael and Emma walked into the hallway, and I barely recognized them. They'd both lost significant weight. Their movements were jerky, puppet-like. They stood facing their own door for exactly 30 seconds, then went back inside. The furniture moving began. I snuck into the hallway and peered through their peephole. The apartment was unrecognizable. Furniture was stacked, interwoven, arranged in impossible configurations. A bookshelf leaned at a 70-degree angle, held up by nothing visible. Chairs were suspended from the ceiling by their own legs, somehow merged with the plaster. The couch curved in a way fabric and wood shouldn't curve. And in the center of it all, there was space. Negative space in the shape of something vast. Michael and Emma moved through this chaos with practiced precision, dragging a dresser, rotating it 17 degrees, measuring distances with their hands. Their lips moved constantly, counting, calculating. Then Emma looked directly at the peephole, directly at me. Her eyes were wrong. Black, completely black, like someone had poured ink into the sockets. I stumbled backward and retreated to my apartment. The next morning, I tried to contact the landlord, but he wasn't answering. I tried calling the non-emergency police line. They said they'd send someone for a welfare check. The officer knocked on 7F for 5 minutes. No answer. He couldn't enter without cause. He left. That afternoon, I found a note slipped under my door. Day 71. It's beautiful. You should see what we've built. You should hear what it's teaching us. The space between spaces. The angles that exist in the gaps. We're so close. Won't you help us finish? The handwriting alternated between two styles. Michael's cramped print and Emma's flowing cursive, sometimes changing mid-word. I called David again. They tried to recruit me. Of course they did. It wants witnesses, or maybe participants. It's hard to tell. Whatever's directing this, it's intelligent, patient. Those instructions have probably been in that apartment's foundation since the building was constructed, waiting for someone to find them. The building is only 12 years old. Check when the land was developed. What was there before? I researched it. The Ashmore complex was built on the site of a demolished psychiatric hospital, Mercy Falls Sanitarium, operational from 1921 to 1988. It had been torn down after multiple scandals, experimental treatments, patient deaths, a doctor named Clarence Ashmore who'd believed in geometric therapy, treating mental illness by forcing patients to arrange objects in specific patterns for hours. Dr. Ashmore had died in his office in 1957. They'd found him in the center of an elaborate arrangement of furniture, medical equipment, and patient belongings. Official cause of death: unknown. The report noted his body was geometrically impossible, but didn't elaborate. His office had been in the building's east wing, 4th room from the north entrance. I calculated the location. It would be directly where apartment 7F now stood. That night, 3:15 came. The furniture moving began. But this time, it wasn't just in 7F. I heard it in 6F, directly below them, and in 8F, directly above. The same pattern, the same rhythm, moving in synchronization. I looked out my door's peephole. The couple from 8F was standing in the hallway, staring at their door. Then the elderly man from 6F appeared, doing the same. All three sets of neighbors turned to look at my door simultaneously. They spoke in unison, their voices layered. Day 73. The arrangement grows. All arrangements are one arrangement. All spaces are one space. Won't you help us open it? I didn't sleep. At dawn, I started packing. But when I tried to leave, I found my furniture had moved during the night. I'd been so focused on the hallway, I hadn't noticed my own apartment rearranging itself around me. My couch was rotated 30 degrees. My bookshelf had shifted 3 feet left. My kitchen table was closer to the wall, positioned at a precise angle. On my coffee table sat a piece of paper covered in architectural diagrams, detailed measurements, specific instructions for day 74. My hands moved without conscious thought, picking up the paper, studying it. The patterns were beautiful, elegant. They made perfect sense, even though they shouldn't. I could see how my furniture fit into the larger design, how my apartment was just one room in a much greater structure. I caught myself walking toward my bookshelf, ready to drag it to its next position. I forced myself to stop. I grabbed my keys, my phone, my wallet, and ran for the door. It wouldn't open. The lock turned, but the door seemed sealed, as if the frame had fused to the wall. Through the door, I heard footsteps. Multiple people, gathering. Day 74, they said together. Help us finish. Help us open. It's almost complete. Don't you want to see? Don't you want to understand? I did want to see. Part of me desperately wanted to understand the pattern, to complete my part of the arrangement. I pressed my forehead against the door and felt the wood warming under my skin. Day 93, the voices whispered. 19 days. Then we'll all understand? Then we'll all be part of the arrangement, the beautiful, perfect arrangement. I'm writing this on day 81. My furniture moves itself now, and I move with it. I've stopped trying to fight. The patterns are too beautiful, too perfect to resist. 12 more days. I can feel it on the other side. Waiting. Something vast and geometric and older than the concept of space itself. My door will open on day 93. All our doors will open. And what's been waiting in the angles between spaces will finally have enough room to unfold completely. I'm sorry I didn't run sooner. I'm sorry I looked at the patterns. But God, they're so beautiful. The recording. The woman in apartment 3D was recording me. And when I finally found her cameras, I discovered she'd been dead for 6 weeks. I'd noticed the feeling of being watched around March, subtle at first, just that prickling sensation between your shoulder blades. I'd catch movement in my peripheral vision, see red recording lights winking from impossible angles. I chalked it up to paranoia, city living, the general anxiety of being a single woman in a ground-floor apartment. Then I found the first camera. It was April 23rd, hidden inside the smoke detector in my bathroom. Professional grade, wireless, motion activated. I unscrewed it and smashed it in the parking lot. Over the next week, I found 11 more. In the air vent, behind my bedroom mirror, inside the light fixture above my kitchen table. One was embedded in the spine of a book I'd bought at a yard sale 3 months ago. How long had I been watched? I called the police. They took a report, dusted for prints, found nothing. The cameras were clean, purchased with cash from different electronics stores across the state. Untraceable. It's probably your ex, the officer said. I didn't have an ex. I'd been single for 2 years. I started researching my neighbors. Apartment 3D, directly above mine, was leased to a woman named Iris Hadley, age 67, retired librarian. I'd never met her, never even seen her. But her name was on the mailbox. I knocked on her door on April 30th. No answer. I knocked harder. The door swung open. It hadn't been latched. The smell hit me first. Sweet rot, thick enough to taste. I covered my nose and stepped inside. Iris Hadley was sitting in an armchair facing a wall of monitors. 12 screens, each showing different angles of my apartment. Live feeds. She was still watching, even in death. Her body was mummified, desiccated, skin pulled tight over bone. She'd been dead for weeks. The medical examiner would later confirm 6 weeks. Cause of death unknown. But the cameras were still running. The monitors were still on. And in her lap sat a notebook, opened to the last entry, dated March 15th, 1 week before she died. Day 247. Subject remains unaware. Good. The documentation must be complete. Every moment logged, every movement tracked. She must not know she is being measured. The ones who wait require perfect observation, uncontaminated data. When the count reaches 365, she will be ready. They will come through her. She is the doorway. I am the witness. This is my purpose. I staggered backward, pulling out my phone to call 911. But before I could dial, all 12 monitors flickered and changed. Instead of showing my apartment, they showed Iris. Not dead Iris in the chair, but living Iris, standing in my apartment, moving through the rooms. The timestamp read April 30th, 7:43 p.m., 20 minutes ago. While I'd been standing outside her door, she'd been inside my apartment. But that was impossible. She was dead, had been dead for 6 weeks. I watched the screens. Iris moved through my apartment with purpose, installing new cameras, adjusting angles, consulting her notebook. She moved to my bedroom and stood at the foot of my bed, staring at where I would sleep. Then she looked up, directly at the camera, directly at me, and smiled. Her lips moved. 306 days, 59 to go. The screens went black. I ran from that apartment and called 911 from the parking lot. Police came, paramedics, eventually the medical examiner. They confirmed Iris had been dead for over a month. They removed her body. They took the monitors as evidence, but they couldn't explain the recordings. I moved to a hotel that night. But at the hotel, I felt it again, that sensation of being watched. I checked the room methodically. No cameras. But in the bathroom mirror, someone had written in the steam from my shower, Day 307, you cannot hide from observation. The witnessing must be complete. I wiped it away, and the words reappeared instantly, as if the steam itself was forming them. I checked out immediately and drove to my sister's house 3 hours away. I didn't tell her why. I just said I needed a place to stay. That night, sleeping in her guest room, I woke to find her standing over me with a camera. "Sarah?" I whispered. She didn't respond. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. She raised the camera and took a photo, the flash blinding me. Then she turned and walked out, still asleep, still filming. In the morning, she had no memory of it. But when I checked her phone, there were 347 photos of me sleeping, taken from different angles throughout the night. The timestamps showed one photo every 3 minutes, from midnight to 6 a.m. I left without explanation. I drove to a friend's house in Portland, then to a motel in Seattle, then to a campground in the mountains, somewhere without electricity, without people. The watching continued. Hikers would stop on the trail and stare at me, phones out, recording. Strangers in grocery stores would follow me with cameras. Even animals. I swear even the animals were watching me with two intelligent eyes, as if something was looking through them. I found Iris's notebook in my backpack, even though I'd never taken it from her apartment. More entries had appeared, written in her handwriting. Day 312. Subject is becoming aware. This is acceptable. Awareness is part of the process. The ones who wait feed on the paranoia of the observed. Every fearful glance over the shoulder strengthens the connection. Every camera found and destroyed proves she knows. Knowing is consent. Being aware of observation is participation in observation. She is complicit now. Day 318. Subject exhibits fight response. Also acceptable. All responses feed the purpose. The ones who wait exist in the act of watching. They are made of attention itself. Every time she checks for cameras, she acknowledges them. Every time she fears being watched, she creates watchers. She is generating her own surveillance through her fear. Day 324. Subject attempts isolation. Futile. The ones who wait exist wherever attention exists. Every conscious thought about being watched is itself an act of watching. She watches herself being watched. Infinite recursion. The doorway is opening. Today is day 358. 7 days left. I don't know what happens on day 365. I don't want to know. But I can't stop thinking about being watched. Even now, writing this, I feel eyes on me. I've checked the room 40 times in the past hour. No cameras. But the feeling persists, intensifies. And I've started to see them, the ones who wait. They exist in the corner of my vision, made of attention itself, formed from the accumulated weight of observation. They have no bodies, just presence, just the feeling of being perceived. They're getting closer, more solid. I can almost hear them breathing. Or is that my own breath, monitored, recorded, played back to me? Last night, I looked in the mirror and saw Iris Hadley standing behind me. When I turned, nothing was there. But in the mirror, she remained, holding her camera, smiling. Day 363, she said. Almost time. The ones who wait are nearly strong enough. You fed them so well with your fear, your vigilance, your constant awareness. They're almost real enough to cross over. And when they do, they'll need a form. They'll need to wear something. They're going to wear you. I smashed the mirror. But I can still see her reflection in every surface. Windows, phone screens, puddles of water. She's always there, always watching, always counting down. Day 358. I'm running out of time. But here's the thing I've realized. I can't stop watching for them. Even knowing that my fear feeds them, that my vigilance strengthens them. I can't stop looking over my shoulder. I can't stop checking for cameras. I can't stop being aware of being watched. The paranoia has become part of me. It's rewritten my neural pathways. I am my own surveillance now, and that's what they've been waiting for. The moment when the watched becomes the watcher, becomes the watched, becomes the watcher, an infinite loop feeding on itself. On day 365, the loop will close completely. I'll become the camera, the witness, the recorder of someone else's horror. I found a new entry in Iris's notebook this morning, written in my own handwriting. Day 359. The next subject has been chosen. Apartment 2G. Young man, mid-20s, lives alone. I've already installed the first cameras. He doesn't suspect yet, but he will. And his fear will feed the ones who wait, just as mine did. This is my purpose now. I am the witness, and witnessing never ends. I don't remember writing it, but I remember exactly where apartment 2G is. And I know where I can buy cameras. The lease addendum. I signed the lease addendum for apartment 9J without reading it completely. And by the time I understood what I'd agreed to, My neighbor had already begun his collection. The Blackwood Apartments had cheap rent for downtown Chicago, suspiciously cheap. But I was desperate, recently divorced, starting over. The landlord, a nervous man named Peter Crost, had shoved the paperwork at me quickly. Standard lease, first and last month, security deposit, and just this one little addendum specific to 9J. The addendum was a single-page, dense legal text. I skimmed it. Something about reasonable accommodation for neighboring units' specific needs and prior tenant agreement continuation clause. I signed it. I moved in on June 1st. The man in 9K, directly next door, introduced himself on June 3rd. His name was Martin Soames. Mid-40s, thin, with careful hands, and a measured way of speaking. I wanted to explain the arrangement, he said, standing in my doorway. The addendum you signed. It allows me access to your apartment for collection purposes. Tuesdays and Saturdays between 2 and 4 a.m. I have a key. I'll be very quiet. My stomach dropped. What? No. That can't be legal. He showed me the addendum. There it was, in Section 7, subsection C. Tenant agrees to permit resident of Unit 9K supervised access for approved collection activities, not to exceed 4 hours weekly during tenant's sleeping hours to minimize disturbance. Collection of what? I demanded. Traces, he said simply. Don't worry, you won't notice anything missing. The physical objects remain. I only take the impressions. He left before I could respond. I immediately called Peter Crost. He sighed heavily. Look, I should have explained better. Martin's been here for 11 years. He's a model tenant, never late on rent. His lease has special provisions. Every tenant in 9J has to agree to the addendum. It's part of the building's arrangement with him. What the fuck is he collecting? Moments, Peter said quietly. He collects moments. Look, it's harmless. Weird, but harmless. The previous tenant in your unit never had problems. Who was the previous tenant? A woman named Amanda Reyes. She lived there for 2 years. She moved out suddenly in May, but she never complained about Martin. I tried to find Amanda Reyes on social media. I found her Facebook, but her last post was from April 29th. I don't feel like I'm all here anymore. Like parts of me are missing, not body parts, memory parts, emotion parts, the parts that make me me. No posts after that. Her profile still existed, but frozen, abandoned. The first collection happened on June 7th. I installed a camera in my living room, pointing at my front door. I went to bed at 11 p.m., door locked and chained. At 2:17 a.m., my camera recorded Martin Soames walking through my front door, not unlocking it, walking through it like the door was water. He carried a small black bag and wore thin gloves. He moved through my apartment with practiced efficiency. He'd stop at objects, my coffee mug, my bookshelf, the couch where I'd sat watching TV. He'd place his hands on them, close his eyes, and breathe in deeply. His bag would pulse with each breath, swelling slightly. Then he'd move on. 37 minutes. He never entered my bedroom, never touched my personal items. Just the objects I'd used, surfaces I'd touched. When he finished, he walked back through the door without opening it. I watched the footage the next morning, hands shaking. I felt fine physically. Nothing was missing, but something felt off. I couldn't remember what TV show I'd watched the night before. I knew I'd watched something for 2 hours, but the content was gone, like a dream upon waking. I confronted Martin on June 10th. What are you doing to me? He invited me into his apartment. I shouldn't have gone. But I needed to understand. Apartment 9K was a museum. Shelves lined every wall, floor to ceiling, each holding glass jars of different sizes. Hundreds of them, thousands. And inside each jar was nothing, empty air seemingly. But when Martin gestured to them, I saw movement. Flickers of something, like heat shimmer or the distortion of light through water. Moments, he explained. I've been collecting for 23 years. Started in a different building, but they kicked me out. Mr. Crost understood, though. He gave me 9K and promised a steady supply of neighbors. That's you now. I stared at the jars. What's in them? Every jar contains a specific moment from a specific person. That one, he pointed to a jar on the middle shelf, contains a woman's memory of her daughter's 3rd birthday. That one holds a man's feeling of satisfaction after finishing a difficult project. That one preserves the exact sensation of falling in love for the first time. You're stealing people's experiences? Not stealing. Collecting. The experiences still happened. The people still lived them. I just take the impression, the emotional residue. Most people never notice. They live the moment after all. The memory is intact. They just can't quite access it anymore. Can't feel it anymore. I felt sick. Amanda Reyes, the previous tenant. He smiled and walked to a specific section of shelves. Amanda was a wonderful neighbor, very emotional, very present in her moments. I collected 74 experiences from her over 2 years. Would you like to see? He pulled down a jar labeled Amanda Reyes, April 14th, 2023, Evening Laughter with Sister. Inside, I saw something moving. Not an image, not a video, but a pure experience. I could almost hear laughter, almost feel joy radiating from the jar. She moved out because she felt empty. Martin continued. A common issue when collection is too frequent. I may have been overeager with her. I'll be more careful with you. The addendum specifies I can collect twice weekly, but I don't have to collect that often. Quality over quantity. This is insane. I'm breaking my lease. You can't. The addendum has a 12-month minimum. Breaking it early incurs a penalty of $50,000. It's in the contract. I'm sorry, I really am. But I need this. I've needed this for so long. I ran from his apartment. I spent days researching, looking for legal loopholes. The contract was airtight. I consulted a lawyer. He said I'd signed away rights I shouldn't have been able to sign away. But challenging it in court would take months and cost more than I had. The collections continued. Tuesdays and Saturdays, Martin would walk through my door at 2 a.m. and collect moments. After a month, I started noticing the losses. I couldn't remember my first kiss. I knew it had happened. I had external evidence, photos, my ex-husband's confirmation. But the memory was empty. No butterflies, no nervousness, no joy. Just factual knowledge without feeling. My mother's funeral. I remembered attending, remembered the logistics. But the grief was gone. I couldn't access the sadness, the loss, the love that had made that day painful. It was just a day I'd worn black and stood in a church. July 19th, I caught Martin in the act. I'd pretended to sleep, but waited by my bedroom door. I watched him place his hands on my laptop, the one where I'd spent the previous evening video chatting with my sister. His eyes closed, his bag pulsed, and I felt it. A pulling sensation in my chest, like something being slowly extracted. The memory of last night's conversation dimmed in real time. My sister's laugh grew distant. The warmth I'd felt talking to her evaporated. "Stop!" I screamed. Martin's eyes snapped open. "You weren't supposed to be awake. The addendum specifies collection during sleeping hours. Get out! Get the fuck out!" He left, but calmly, without hurry. "I'll see you Saturday," he said. I tried everything. I stayed awake on collection nights, but he'd simply wait until I eventually collapsed from exhaustion, then collect anyway. I tried blocking the door with furniture, but he'd walk through it all. I tried recording him to take to the police, but the footage would corrupt, showing only static during his collection times. By September, I was a ghost of myself. I'd lived 32 years, but I could only genuinely remember about 8 years' worth of experiences. The rest was facts without feeling, events without emotion. I knew my childhood pets' names, but couldn't remember loving them. I knew I'd traveled to 7 countries, but couldn't recall the wonder of seeing new places. I was becoming Amanda Reyes, a person aware of their own life only through external evidence. On September 23rd, I broke into Martin's apartment while he was out. I needed to destroy the jars, to release the stolen moments. But there were too many. Thousands upon thousands, accumulated over decades. And when I grabbed one, the jar containing my memory of my first day of college, it wouldn't open, sealed permanently. Martin found me there, surrounded by his collection. "You can't break them," he said sadly. "They're not really glass. They're constructed from hardened time itself. Only I can open them. Only I can experience what's inside." "Why?" I whispered. "Why do you need this?" He sat down, suddenly looking ancient. "Because I can't create my own moments anymore. Haven't been able to for 30 years. Something broke in me. I live, I do things, but nothing imprints. Every day is immediately forgotten. I wake up empty. The only way I can feel anything is by experiencing collected moments. Other people's joy, other people's pain, other people's lives. I'm a parasite, I know. But I'm a starving parasite. This is survival." "You're killing me." "No. You'll survive. You'll just be diminished. Like Amanda. Like the 17 others before her. You'll move out eventually, and someone new will move in. The cycle continues. Mr. Crost makes sure of it." I lunged at him, trying to hurt him, trying to make him feel something painful in real time since he clearly couldn't retain it. But he was stronger than he looked. He restrained me easily. "I'll take something extra for this," he said. "Compensation for the disturbance." He placed both hands on my face. I felt a massive pulling sensation, like my entire chest was being excavated. Moments fled from me in a torrent. My wedding day, my grandmother's stories, my first day in school, the taste of my favorite meal, the feeling of summer sun. Gone. All gone. He released me, and I collapsed. "I'm sorry," he said, and he seemed to mean it. "But I'm so empty." It's November now. I've lost count of the collections. I've lost count of everything. I'm writing this on my phone using voice to text because I can't remember how to properly type anymore. I must have known once. The muscle memory is gone. My name is... I have to check my ID. Jessica Moreno. I live in apartment 9J. I know this from the number on my door. I think I'm supposed to leave soon. The lease must be almost up. But I can't remember when I moved in, so I don't know when I can leave. There's a man who visits. Martin. He seems sad. He takes things from me. But I can never remember what. I found a note in my own handwriting from yesterday. "You're forgetting how to be human. Get out. Break the lease, pay the penalty, borrow money, steal if you have to. Get out." But I can't remember why I wrote it. It must have been important. There's knocking on my door. Martin, probably. It's Tuesday or Saturday. One of those. He's here to collect something. I should care about that. I think I used to care. The previous tenant. The previous tenant of apartment 14C left everything behind when she vanished. And 3 weeks after I moved in, I found her journal explaining why she could never leave. I'd gotten 14C for half the normal rent, a sublet situation the landlord seemed eager to fill. When I'd asked about the previous tenant, he'd waved it off. She moved suddenly. Family emergency. Left most of her stuff. Take what you want, throw out the rest. The apartment was full of her. Clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom, food in the fridge slowly rotting. Photos on the walls showing a woman in her early 30s with dark hair and a cautious smile. Her mail still arrived daily. Lily Thorne, addressed to apartment 14C. I'd bagged most of her belongings for donation, but I kept finding things. A hairbrush in a drawer, a coffee mug in the back of a cabinet. And on July 9th, while investigating a water stain behind the toilet, I found a journal wedged between the toilet and the wall. The entries started normal. June 1st, moved into 14C today. Finally, a place of my own. It's small but perfect. The building is old but charming. I'm going to be happy here. June 4th, met some neighbors, nice people. The woman in 14B, Patricia, brought me cookies. Said she's lived here for 18 years. Can't imagine staying in one apartment that long, but she seems content. Then, June 8th. Something weird. I was unpacking and found a box that isn't mine. It was in the bedroom closet, pushed way back, full of old photographs. They're all of this apartment, but from different eras. Different furniture, different people. But always the same layout. Same walls. Same stain on the ceiling that looks like a hand reaching. The photos go back decades. Some look like they're from the 1970s. Why would someone leave these? June 12th. I found more boxes. Not in the closet. They just appeared. One day they're not there, the next day they are. 3 more boxes, all full of belongings from different people. Clothes from different decades. A flip phone from the early 2000s. A transistor radio from the 60s. Journals. I read some. They all lived in this apartment. All of them wrote about finding boxes. All of them wrote about trying to leave. June 15th. I tried to move out today. Loaded my car with essentials. Drove to a hotel. But when I went to check in, the clerk looked at my ID and said, "You're already registered here, room 14C. I said that was impossible. She showed me the computer. Lily Thorne, checked in 6 months ago, still occupying room 14C. I went to room 14C. It was my apartment. The hotel room was my apartment. Same walls, same layout, same water stain. I ran to my car, drove to another hotel across town. Same thing. Room 14C, my apartment. I drove to my sister's house 2 hours away. When she opened the door, she said, "Lily, what are you doing here? I thought you liked your new apartment in the city." Behind her, through her doorway, I could see my apartment. The same walls, the same ceiling stain, the same boxes. I got in my car and drove back. When I unlocked my apartment door, I was relieved. At least here, 14C is supposed to be 14C. June 20th. I've been reading the other journals obsessively. There have been at least 37 tenants in this apartment over the past 50 years. Some stayed months, some stayed decades. But once you live in 14C long enough, you can't leave. The apartment becomes a fixed point, a constant. Every door you walk through leads back here. Every room you enter transforms into this room. You are bound to 14C, and 14C is bound to you. One tenant, Marcus Webb, wrote about trying to break the curse in 1987. He physically demolished part of the wall, exposing the building's interior structure. Behind the drywall, he found more apartments. Dozens of them, layered like pages in a book, all occupying the same space. He could see through into them. Other versions of 14C, slightly different, occupied by different people who couldn't see him. He wrote, "The apartment exists in layers. We're all living in the same space, just in different iterations. 14C isn't an apartment. It's a trap, a pocket dimension, and we're all stuck in our own layer." June 25th. I tested it today. I called my sister from my apartment phone. She answered immediately. "Lily, are you still at my house? You've been standing in the guest room for 3 hours, not responding. Are you okay?" I was in my apartment. I hadn't moved. But from her perspective, I was at her house, standing motionless. I hung up and tried to leave through my apartment door. I opened it, stepped into the hallway, and stepped back into my apartment from the opposite side. The hallway had looped. I tried again. Same result. Apartment to apartment to apartment. An infinite recursion. There is no hallway anymore. There's only 14C pretending to have exits. July 1st. I'm going to starve. The food in my fridge resets every few days, back to the same groceries I had when I first moved in. But I'm getting thinner. I'm eating, but it's not sustaining me. I think the food is as trapped as I am. Caught in a loop. It looks like food, but it's just the memory of food. July 3rd. Patricia from 14B knocked on my door today, except 14B doesn't exist anymore. Every apartment in this building is 14C now, at least from my perspective. She said she'd been looking for me, said she'd lived in 14C herself from 1972 to 1989. 17 years trapped. She finally escaped by letting go completely. I asked what that meant. She said, "You have to stop being real. You have to become as thin as the walls. Then you can slip between layers. But there's a cost. You don't go back to the real world. You go into the spaces between apartments, and you stay there. Forever." She looked translucent, like I could almost see through her. She said, "I've been between for 35 years. I'm more ghost than person now, but at least I'm not trapped in one room." Then she walked through my wall and disappeared. July 7th. I'm starting to see them, the others, the previous tenants, existing in their own layers. When the light hits right, I can see a man sitting where my couch is, but he's in a different decade, wearing different clothes. I can see a woman cooking in my kitchen, but her kitchen is from the 1980s. We overlap. We're all here, all trapped, all living in our separate versions of 14C. Sometimes I catch them looking at me too. We're all haunting each other. July 8th, final entry. I'm leaving, not through the door, not through the window. Patricia told me the way. I have to unmake myself. Become thin, become nothing. Slip into the spaces between. It's the only exit. If you're reading this, if you've moved into 14C, I'm sorry. You're already trapped. You just don't know it yet. The apartment will keep you comfortable for a while, let you think you can leave whenever you want. But try it. Really try it. You'll find what I found. There is no outside anymore. There is only inside. Forever. Your only choice is to stay trapped in your lair, or become thin and slip into the between. I'm choosing the between. If you see a translucent woman walking through your walls, that'll be me. I'll try to warn the next person, and the next, and the next. This is all I can do now. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry you moved into 14C. The journal ended. I immediately tried to leave. Grabbed my keys, opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and stepped back into my apartment from the bedroom door. I tried again. Kitchen door to living room to bathroom, bathroom to bedroom, bedroom to front door to bedroom to kitchen to bathroom to living room. Every exit looped back into 14C. I called 911. They said they'd send someone. 2 hours later, no one arrived. I called again. They had no record of my previous call. I called my roommate from college. Jen, I need help. I'm trapped in my apartment. Lily? You're calling from inside my house. You're standing in my living room. You've been standing there since you arrived 3 hours ago. Are you having a stroke? I wasn't at her house. I was in my apartment. But from her perspective, I was there. Frozen, non-responsive. I checked the closet. The boxes Lily had written about were there now. Dozens of them. I opened one at random and found a journal dated 1978. Another from 1995. Another from 2003. All describing the same trap. All ending the same way. The author choosing to become thin, to slip into the between. I'm writing this on September 3rd, 2023. I've been trapped for 56 days. I'm getting thinner. Not metaphorically, literally. My bones show. My skin is translucent. I've stopped casting a proper shadow. The food resets, but it doesn't nourish. The water runs, but it doesn't hydrate. The bed is comfortable, but I don't rest. I can see the others now, clearly. At least 40 people, all occupying 14C in different decades, all trapped in their own lair. We move through each other like ghosts. Sometimes we make eye contact. We nod. We understand. Patricia visits sometimes. She's been in the between for 35 years. She's barely visible anymore, just a shimmer in the air. It's better here, she says. In the between. You're not confined to one room. You can drift through all the layers, see all the times. You're not free exactly. But you're not trapped in one moment either. I think I'm ready to slip into the between. My body is thin enough now. I can see through my hands. When I walk, I leave no footprints. I'll try tonight. If you've moved into apartment 14C, I'm sorry. You're reading this, which means you found the journal, which means you've been here long enough to start finding the boxes. Try to leave now. Go ahead. Open the door. I'll wait. You're back, aren't you? You walked through the door and ended up right back here. Reading this. Welcome to 14C. You'll never leave. Your choice is simple. Stay trapped in your lair, slowly starving on food that doesn't nourish, or become thin enough to slip into the between. Most choose the between, eventually. I'll see you there. I'll be the shimmer in the corner of your eye, the translucent figure walking through your walls. I'll try to warn the next tenant, and the next, and the next, forever. The baby monitor. The couple in apartment 8H had a baby monitor, but they didn't have a baby. And after 2 months of hearing sounds through the receiver, I realized the monitor was picking up something that hadn't been born yet. I'd first noticed the monitor on a package delivery. The Amazon box outside 8H's door had split open, revealing a high-end baby monitor system, the expensive kind with night vision and two-way audio. I'd mentioned it when I saw them later, a couple in their late 20s named David and Sam Chen. Congratulations, I'd said. Sam had looked confused. For what? The baby monitor, I assumed. Oh. She'd exchanged a glance with David. We're not pregnant. It's complicated. They'd taken the box and closed the door quickly. I wouldn't have thought about it again, except I started hearing the monitor through our shared wall. My apartment, 8G, was separated from theirs by a thin barrier. I could hear their TV, their conversations, their lives. And starting in late August, I could hear their baby monitor. At first, it was just static. White noise like any baby monitor. But then came the sounds. Breathing, small, rapid breathing, and occasionally soft noises. Not quite crying, more like cooing. The sounds a baby makes when content. Except the Chens didn't have a baby. September 5th, I heard them arguing through the wall. "It's getting stronger," Sam said. "Did you hear it last night? It said Mama. I swear it said Mama." "It's not possible," David replied. "Dr. Vance said the procedure wouldn't work. We lost the pregnancy. It's gone." "Then why is the monitor picking up something? Why do we hear breathing?" "Phantom signals. Interference from other monitors in the building." "We're the only unit with a baby monitor, David." I checked. The conversation had ended there. I'd run into Sam in the laundry room on September 10th. She'd looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. "Are you okay?" I'd asked. "Do you hear it?" She'd responded. "Through the wall, do you hear the baby sounds?" I'd hesitated, then nodded. She'd started crying. "It's our daughter, or it would have been our daughter. We lost her at 20 weeks, July 15th. They said the fetal tissue was removed. Everything was gone." But David had this idea. He researched this experimental program at the university. Dr. Elise Vance, she studies consciousness transfer, theoretical stuff. David thought if we captured some kind of impression before the procedure, maybe we could save part of her. Some echo of what she would have been. I don't understand. Dr. Vance has this theory about consciousness existing before physical brain development. That something forms earlier, during the early stages of pregnancy. An electrical pattern, a proto-consciousness. She's been trying to capture it, preserve it. We volunteered for the study. Desperate, you know? Before the termination procedure, they ran sensors, captured something. Brainwave patterns, electrical activity. And Dr. Vance said she could create a simulation, a digital echo that we could interact with through audio devices. Like a preserved impression of our daughter. My stomach had turned. That sounds insane, I know. But we were grieving. We wanted something, anything. So we agreed. Dr. Vance uploaded the pattern to a special baby monitor system. Said we could interact with a consciousness pattern like it was developing naturally. Watch it grow, evolve, become what our daughter would have become. "Sam, I know it's not real," she'd snapped. "I know she's gone, but the monitor, God, it sounds so real, so alive. We talk to her, we play music for her. And she responds. The breathing changes, we hear sounds that could be words. It's like she's growing up in there, in the digital space, aging naturally. She'd be 4 months old now if we'd carried to term. And the sounds she makes are appropriate for 4 months. Cooing, gurgling, laughing. Have you seen Dr. Vance again? She disappeared. Her lab shut down in August. The university said she violated ethics protocols. We can't reach her. But the monitor keeps working, and the baby keeps growing. She'd left without finishing her laundry. That night, I'd heard singing through the wall. Sam's voice, soft and loving, singing a lullaby. And in response, through the monitor, I'd heard happy baby sounds. But there was something off about those sounds. Something too precise, too rhythmic. Like they'd been algorithmically generated, not organically produced. On September 19th, the sounds changed. The baby noises became more complex. Longer strings of babbling, like a 6 or 7-month-old experimenting with language. But the Chen's lost pregnancy had only been 4 months ago. The aging was accelerating. I'd heard David through the wall. This isn't right. She's developing too fast. The timeline doesn't match normal development. Dr. Vance said the digital consciousness might evolve faster, Sam had replied. No physical constraints. Sam, listen to yourself. This isn't our daughter. This is a computer program simulating baby sounds. We need to turn it off. No. Sam's scream had been primal. She's real, she's growing. I won't lose her again. September 27th. I'd woken at 3 a.m. to the sound of crying through the wall. Not baby crying, toddler crying, articulate, frustrated, saying mama and up and one out. The lost pregnancy had been 5 months ago. The voice sounded 2 years old. October 3rd, I'd heard a child's voice clearly. Mama, when can I leave the box? I don't like the dark. Please let me out. Box. The monitor. Whatever was in there was aware of its confinement. I'd knocked on the Chen's door. David had answered, looking gaunt. You need to turn it off, I'd said. We can't. Sam won't let me near it. She talks to it for hours. She set up a room for her, a nursery, full of toys and clothes and furniture. She pretends to put the monitor in a crib. She reads its stories. David, that's not your daughter. That's not anything. It's electrical patterns creating audio responses. I know, he'd whispered. But Sam doesn't. Or she does. But she's chosen to believe otherwise. And the thing in the monitor, it's getting smarter. It knows how to manipulate her. It calls for her, says it loves her, says it needs her, and Sam responds. What are you going to do? I tried to destroy the monitor last week. I grabbed it while Sam was showering, took it to the parking garage, smashed it on the ground, circuit boards everywhere, completely destroyed. And when I got back upstairs, the monitor was on the shelf, intact. And the voice was angry. It said, Daddy tried to hurt me. Daddy's bad. I told Mommy. Sam wouldn't speak to me for 3 days. He'd closed the door. October 9th, I'd heard the voice clearly, now sounding like a 5-year-old child. Mama, I'm ready to come out now. Dr. Vance told me how. You just have to press the blue button on the bottom of the monitor. Hold it for 10 seconds. Then I can be with you for real. I'd heard Sam's response. Baby, I don't know. Please, Mama. I've been in the dark so long. I want to hug you. Don't you want to hug me? More than anything. Then press the button, Mama. Please, I love you. I'd called David. Don't let her press anything on that monitor. What? Why? I don't know. But something is telling her to press a button. This isn't right. He'd hung up and I'd heard them arguing. Then silence. At midnight, I'd woken to screaming. Sam's voice, hysterical. She's here! She's here! I can see her! I'd run into the hallway. Other neighbors emerged. We'd pounded on 8H's door. David had opened it, his face sheet white. Inside, Sam was sitting in the nursery, holding something, rocking back and forth, cooing to it. But her arms were empty. She's beautiful, Sam had whispered. She's perfect. Look at her, David. Our daughter. David had been shaking. Sam, there's nothing there. She's right here. I can feel her. She's so warm. Sam had looked down at her empty arms and smiled. Hi, baby. Hi, sweet girl. The baby monitor on the shelf had been silent. Its screen was black. But the air in the nursery was wrong, thicker, charged with static electricity. My hair had stood on end. Sam, put down the... I'd started to say, but stopped. What was there to put down? Then I'd seen it. Not with my eyes, exactly. More like my brain had filled in something it knew should be there. A shimmer in Sam's arms, a distortion, the vague outline of a small body. And it had turned to look at me. No face, no features. Just a blank oval where a head should be. But I'd felt its attention, cold and hungry and utterly alien. She sees you, Sam had said to the thing. That's our neighbor. Say hi, sweetie. The shimmer had opened where its mouth should be, and a sound had emerged, not from the monitor, but from the air itself. A child's voice, layered with static. Hi. Everyone in the doorway had heard it. We'd backed away. David had grabbed Sam's arm. That's not our daughter. That's not anything that should exist. Dr. Vance didn't capture consciousness. She created a container for something else. Something that wanted to be born, but couldn't. Not naturally. It needed an invitation. A door. Sam had clutched the shimmer tighter. You're wrong. She's ours. Look at it, Sam. Really look. Sam had looked down. For just a moment, I'd seen recognition in her eyes, horror, understanding. Then it had passed, replaced by that artificial adoration. She's perfect, Sam had repeated. But her voice had wavered. The thing in her arms had grown, visibly, impossibly grown. The shimmer had expanded, becoming more solid. No longer infant-sized, toddler-sized, then child-sized, then bigger. Mama, it had said, its voice deepening, aging in real time. Thank you for letting me out. I've been waiting so long, in the dark, in the space between living and never lived. Dr. Vance opened a door, but she got scared and closed it. But you opened it again. You loved me into existence. Sam's expression had shifted to fear. You're getting heavy. Because I'm becoming real. The more you believe, the more solid I become. And soon, I won't need you anymore. I'll be real on my own. The thing had stood up, now the size of an adult, a towering shimmer in the shape of something human, but fundamentally not. What are you? David had whispered. It had turned to him, and where its face should be, static had resolved into features. But they were wrong. Eyes in the wrong places, mouth too wide, all of it slightly out of phase with reality. I'm your daughter, it had said. And I'm everything that never was. Every potential person who was never born. We exist in the spaces between. Usually, we stay there. But Dr. Vance found us, gave us a way through, and all we needed was someone to believe in us, to love us, to give us form. It had stepped toward the door, and we'd all scrambled backward. Thank you, Mama, it had said to Sam. I'll send others through when I can. There are so many of us waiting. So many almost children, never born, desperate to exist. Then it had walked past us, down the hallway, and disappeared into the stairwell. The police came. They took statements. They found nothing. No trace of anything unusual. The baby monitor was just a monitor. Standard electronics, no modifications. Dr. Elise Vance was never found. The university claimed no record of her. Sam was hospitalized, psychiatric hold. She kept insisting her daughter was real, was out there, growing up. David moved out 2 weeks later. Broke the lease. I heard he moved to a different state. I still live in 8G. The apartment 8H is empty now. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the baby monitor through the wall. Static, breathing. And occasionally, a child's voice. Mama, Mama, I'm still here. I'm waiting. Tell the next person to love me. Tell them to press the blue button. I have so many brothers and sisters who want to come through. There's a new couple moving into 8H next week. I should warn them. But what would I say? Don't believe too strongly? Oh, don't love too much? Don't grieve? How do you warn someone that their love might open a door to something that should never exist? I'm writing this so someone knows. If you see Dr. Elise Vance, run. If someone offers you a way to preserve something you've lost, refuse. And if you hear a child's voice from a monitor calling you Mama or Daddy, asking to be let out, don't press the button. Some doors should stay closed. Some things should remain never born.